Park Do-yoon had been living on the Galactic Unity Station for exactly 3 months, and he still felt like a stranger every single day. The station was massive, bigger than any city he had ever seen on Earth. It floated in space like a metal flower, with thousands of aliens from 40 different species living and working inside its walls. Humans were the newest species to join the Galactic Council. They were still on probation, which meant they had almost no rights and even less respect. Most aliens looked at humans the way humans might look at insects. Interesting, maybe, but not important. Do-hyun was 24 years old, a student of xenobiology. He had dreamed of space since he was a child, watching rockets launch on television and imagining what it would be like to touch the stars. Now he was here, surrounded by beings from 100 different worlds, and mostly he just felt lonely. It was midday on the station, and the cafeteria was packed with aliens of every shape and color. Some had scales, some had feathers, some had so many arms that Do-hyun lost count. The noise was incredible, dozens of languages mixing together into a strange kind of music. Do-hyun stood near the entrance, holding his food tray. The tray held something that was supposed to taste like rice and vegetables, but it tasted like wet cardboard. He had learned not to complain. Complaining made you look weak, and looking weak in front of aliens was dangerous. He searched for an empty seat. His eyes moved from table to table, looking for any space where he could sit alone and eat in peace. But every table was full. Worse, many of the aliens were staring at him with unfriendly eyes. A group of Kreth, tall creatures with gray skin and sharp teeth, pointed at him and laughed. He did not understand their language, but he understood their meaning. Then he saw it. A single empty chair at a table near the back wall. The table was mostly empty, with just a few aliens sitting at the far end. They did not seem to notice him. Perfect. Do-hyun walked toward the chair. His shoes made soft sounds on the metal floor. He was 3 steps away from the seat when something unexpected happened. A hand grabbed his wrist. The grip was cold and strong, like metal wrapped in silk. Do-hyun stopped immediately. His heart began to beat faster. He turned his head slowly to see who had grabbed him. She was Valanthe. He knew this because he had studied the different species in his classes. The Valanthe were one of the 3 founding members of the Galactic Council. They were ancient and powerful, with an empire that stretched across hundreds of star systems. They had silver skin that seemed to glow softly, and their eyes were violet, like purple stars. This Valanthe was female. She was tall, taller than Do-hyun by almost a head. Her silver hair fell past her shoulders like a waterfall of moonlight. She wore robes made of fabric that shifted colors as she moved, and golden jewelry decorated her neck and arms. 2 armed guards stood behind her, their hands resting on their weapons. She was, without any doubt, the most beautiful being Do-hyun had ever seen. She was also clearly very important. The entire cafeteria fell silent. Every alien stopped talking. Every eye turned to look at them. "Sit next to me," the Valanthe female said. Her voice was clear and commanding. It was not a request. Do-hyun's mouth opened, but no words came out. He tried again. What?" he managed to say. The female did not let go of his wrist. Her violet eyes studied his face with an intensity that made him feel like she was reading his thoughts. "You heard me, human," she said. Her voice was loud enough for everyone in the cafeteria to hear. "I am Princess Yera of the Valanthe Empire, 3rd in line to the throne of 100 worlds, and I have chosen you." Do-hyun felt his legs go weak. Princess? Throne? Chosen? None of these words made sense in this situation. "Chosen me for what?" he asked. Princess Yera smiled. It was a small smile, but it transformed her face. She looked amused, like a cat playing with a mouse. "Sit," she said again, "and I will explain." She released his wrist and gestured to the seat beside her. It was not the empty seat he had been walking toward. This seat was at her table, directly next to her, in full view of everyone. Do-hyun knew he should refuse. He knew this was probably some kind of trap or trick. Humans did not interact with Valanthe royalty. Humans did not interact with any royalty. Humans kept their heads down and tried not to be noticed. But her eyes held him in place. They were beautiful and dangerous, like looking into a violet fire. He sat down. A sound moved through the cafeteria. It was a mixture of gasps, whispers, and angry murmurs. The Kreth who had laughed at him earlier were no longer laughing. They looked shocked and angry. "Good," Princess Yira said. She picked up a glass of some purple liquid and took a small sip. "You are brave or foolish. Perhaps both. I like that." "Your Highness," Dohyun said carefully, "I think there has been some kind of mistake. I was just looking for somewhere to eat my lunch." "There is no mistake." She set down her glass and looked at him directly. "I have been watching you, Park Do-hyun, for many weeks now." He felt a chill run down his spine. "You know my name? I know everything about you. Your age, your studies, your dreams. I know that you came to this station with hope in your heart, and that hope has slowly been dying because everyone here treats you like dirt beneath their feet." Do-hyun did not know how to respond. She was right. Everything she said was right. "What do you want from me?" he asked. Princess Yira leaned closer. Her silver skin seemed to glow brighter. Her violet eyes captured his completely. "I want to change the galaxy," she whispered, "and you, little human, are going to help me do it." Behind them, the cafeteria erupted into chaos. Aliens were shouting, guards were moving, and somewhere, someone was calling for security. But Do-hyun barely noticed any of it. He was too busy staring into the eyes of a princess who had just turned his entire life upside down. And somewhere deep in his chest, beneath the fear and confusion, he felt something he had not felt in months. He felt alive. The news spread through the station like fire through dry grass. Within 1 hour, every alien on the Galactic Unity Station knew what had happened in the cafeteria. Within 2 hours, the story had reached Earth. Within 3 hours, the Valanthi Emperor himself had been informed. Park Do-hyun sat in his small room, staring at the metal wall. His room was tiny, barely big enough for a bed and a desk. Humans were given the worst living spaces on the station, but right now Do-hyun was grateful for the small room. It felt safe. It felt hidden. His door burst open. Kim Nari stood there, breathing hard like she had been running. Nari was his best friend on the station, a communications specialist who had arrived on the same ship as him. She was 23 years old with short black hair and eyes that were usually calm and friendly. Right now, those eyes were wide with panic. "Do you have any idea what you have done?" she demanded, stepping inside and closing the door behind her. "I did not do anything," Do-hyun said. "She grabbed me. I was just looking for a place to sit." "A place to sit?" Nari laughed, but it was not a happy laugh. "You sat next to the Valanthi princess, the third most important person in one of the most powerful empires in the galaxy. Do you understand what that means?" Do-hyun shook his head. He truly did not understand. Nari sat down on his bed and took a deep breath. She spoke slowly, like she was explaining something to a child. "Among the Valanthi, where you sit is very important. Their culture is built on hierarchy and position. When a member of the royal family publicly invites someone to sit beside them, it is not just politeness. It is a declaration." "A declaration of what?" "Courtship interest." Nari paused to let the words sink in. "She announced to everyone in that cafeteria that she finds you worthy of her attention. Romantic attention, marriage attention." Do-hyun felt like someone had poured cold water over his head. "Marriage? We just met." "It does not work that way for Valanthi. The announcement is the first step. Now everyone in the galaxy knows that Princess Yira has shown interest in a human, a probationary species human. This is unprecedented. This is impossible. This is a disaster," Do-hyun suggested. "The biggest disaster in human diplomatic history," Nari confirmed. "The Valanthi Emperor is demanding explanations. Half his advisors want you executed for corrupting the princess. They think you used some kind of human trick to seduce her." "I did not seduce anyone. I was holding a food tray." "The other half of the advisors think this might be useful," Nari continued, ignoring his protest. "Humanity has been trying to get full council membership for decades. If a human became connected to the Valanthi royal family, it would change everything." Do-hyun stood up and began pacing the small room. 3 steps forward, 3 steps back. It was all the space he had. "What am I supposed to do?" he asked. Before Nari could answer, his communication device beeped. A message appeared on the small screen. It was from Ambassador Yoon Jae-ho, the official human representative to the Galactic Council. The message was short: "Come to my office immediately." Ambassador Yoon's office was on the diplomatic level of the station, in an area where humans were rarely allowed to go. Do-yoon had to pass through 3 security checkpoints to get there. At each checkpoint, the alien guards looked at him with expressions he could not read. Curiosity, anger, amusement, he could not tell. The ambassador's office was larger than Do-hyun's entire living quarters. It had real wooden furniture, imported from Earth at enormous expense. Ambassador Yoon sat behind his desk, looking tired and worried. He was an older man, maybe 60 years old, with gray hair and a face that had seen too many difficult negotiations. "Sit down," the ambassador said, pointing to a chair. Do-yoon sat. He noticed that his hands were shaking slightly. "Tell me exactly what happened," Ambassador Yoon said. "Leave nothing out." Do-yoon told the story from the beginning: the crowded cafeteria, the search for an empty seat, the hand on his wrist, the princess and her violet eyes. He told it all, keeping his voice steady even though his heart was racing. When he finished, the ambassador was quiet for a long moment. "You are telling the truth," Yoon finally said. It was not a question. "Yes, sir. I believe you. Unfortunately, the truth does not matter very much in politics." The ambassador stood and walked to his window. Outside, the stars burned in the endless darkness of space. "The Valanthi Emperor has demanded a formal response from humanity. He wants to know why one of our citizens has attracted his daughter's attention. What will you tell him?" "I do not know yet." Yoon turned back to face Do-hyun. "But I need you to understand something. You are no longer just a student. You are now a symbol. Everything you do, everything you say, will be watched and judged. Your actions will affect not just yourself, but all of humanity." Do-hyun felt the weight of those words pressing down on him. It was too much. He was just a student who wanted to study alien biology. He was not prepared to carry the hopes of his entire species. "There is something else," the ambassador said. "The princess has requested to see you again, tomorrow, in her private chambers. Can I refuse?" "You can. But if you do, it will be seen as an insult to the Valanthi Empire. It could set back human relations by a century. It could even lead to sanctions or expulsion from the council entirely." Do-hyun closed his eyes. He thought about his family back on Earth, his mother who had cried when he left for space, his younger sister who had made him promise to bring back alien souvenirs. He thought about all the humans who had worked so hard to get humanity to the stars. "I will go," he said. Ambassador Yoon nodded. There was something in his eyes that might have been respect. "Be careful," the ambassador said. "The princess is playing a game. We do not know the rules yet, but we know the stakes are high. Whatever happens, remember who you are. Remember where you come from." Do-hyun stood and walked to the door. Before he left, he turned back. "Ambassador, what if this is not a game? What if she actually means what she said?" The ambassador's face was unreadable. "Then God help us all," he said, "because nothing will ever be the same again." Do-hyun walked back to his quarters through corridors filled with whispers and stares. Every alien he passed turned to look at him. Some looked curious, some looked angry, some looked afraid. He was no longer invisible. He was no longer unimportant. He was the human who had caught the eye of a princess. And tomorrow he would find out why. The next day came too quickly. Do-hyun barely slept, spending most of the night staring at the ceiling and wondering what would happen when he met the princess again. By morning his eyes were red and his mind was foggy, but he forced himself to get ready. 2 Valanthi guards came to escort him. They wore silver armor and carried weapons that Do-hyun did not recognize. Their faces showed no emotion as they led him through the station, past areas he had never seen before. The royal section of the station was like a different world. The walls were decorated with beautiful artwork. The floors were made of polished stone instead of metal. Soft music played from somewhere, strange melodies that made Do-hyun feel both calm and nervous at the same time. They stopped before a large door covered in golden symbols. One of the guards pressed his hand against a panel, and the door slid open silently. "Enter," the guard said. "The princess is waiting." Do-hyun stepped inside. The door closed behind him. The room was enormous. It was bigger than his entire apartment building back on Earth. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting rainbow light across everything. Soft carpets covered the floor, and the furniture looked like it cost more than he would earn in 100 lifetimes. Princess Yera stood by a large window looking out at the stars. She had changed her clothes since yesterday. Today she wore a simple silver dress that matched her skin. Her violet eyes reflected the starlight as she turned to face him. "Leave us," she said to the guards who had followed Doyun inside. The guards looked uncertain. "Your Highness, your safety." "I said leave us." Her voice was soft but carried absolute authority. "If I cannot protect myself from one small human, then I do not deserve to be a princess." The guards bowed and left. The door closed and Doyun was alone with the princess. For a moment neither of them spoke. Then Yera smiled and her formal expression cracked into something almost playful. "You look terrible," she said. "Did you not sleep?" "Would you have slept?" Dohyun replied. He was surprised by his own boldness, but something about her smile made him feel less afraid. Yera laughed. It was a genuine laugh, nothing like the cold, formal behavior she had shown in the cafeteria. "Probably not," she admitted. She walked toward him slowly, circling around him like a predator examining prey. But her eyes were curious, not threatening. "You are wondering why I chose you." The thought crossed my mind. "I have been watching you, Park Do-hyun, for many weeks." She stopped in front of him, close enough that he could see the tiny silver flecks in her violet eyes. "Do you know what I have observed?" Do-hyun shook his head. "I observed that when the Kreth ambassador insulted humanity at the council meeting last month, you did not cower or apologize. You smiled and asked him if his species had discovered fire yet, or if they still ate their meat raw." Do-hyun winced at the memory. "That was probably not my smartest moment." "It was brilliant," Yura said. "The Kreth respects strength and humor. You showed both. He has spoken well of humanity ever since." She continued circling him. "I also observed that when the Morvathi scientists refused to share a laboratory with you because they did not want to work with a lesser species, you did not complain. You worked alone, twice as hard, and you produced better results than their entire team combined." "I was just doing my job," Doyun said. "No." Yura stopped in front of him again. Her voice became serious. "You were being human. You were showing what your species is capable of when pushed into a corner. You do not give up. You do not surrender. You find a way." She reached out and touched his face gently. Her silver fingers were cool against his skin. "My people are ancient," she said. "We have ruled our corner of the galaxy for 10,000 years. We have built great things and conquered many enemies. But we have also become slow, comfortable. We have forgotten what it means to struggle, to fight, to grow. And humans have not forgotten. Humans have only just begun." Her violet eyes burned with intensity. "Your species is young and hungry and full of fire. You look at the universe and you see possibilities, not limitations. That is what I want. That is what we need." Do-hyun felt confused. "We? Who is we?" Yura stepped back and walked to her window again. She stared out at the stars for a long moment before speaking. "My brother Korath believes humans are a threat. He thinks your species should be destroyed before you become too powerful. My father, the Emperor, is not sure what to believe. He listens to Korath, but he also knows that our empire is weakening." "And what do you believe?" Do-hyun asked. Yura turned to face him. "I believe that humans could be the allies we desperately need. I believe that your species has something precious, something we have lost. And I believe that together, Valanthi and human, we could face what is coming." "What is coming?" The princess was silent for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was heavy with worry. "War," she said. "War with an enemy you have never met. An enemy so terrible that even the Valanthi are afraid. They are called the Hollow and they are coming. They have already destroyed civilizations at the edge of known space. Entire species, entire worlds, simply gone." Do-hyun felt a chill run through his body. Why have I never heard of this? Because we have kept it secret. The Valanthi have been preparing alone, believing we could handle the threat without help. But I have studied the reports. I have seen what the Hollow can do. We cannot win this war alone. No one can. She walked toward him and took his hands in hers. So I ask you again, Park Do-yun, will you help me? Will you help me convince my father that humans are worth trusting? Will you help me unite the galaxy against the darkness that is coming? Do-yun looked into her violet eyes. He saw fear there, hidden beneath the confidence. He saw hope. He saw a princess who was trying to save her people, even if it meant breaking every rule her society had. He thought about what Ambassador Yoon had said. He thought about humanity, struggling for respect on this station. He thought about his family back on Earth, looking up at the stars and dreaming of the future. Yes, he said, I will help you. Yura smiled, and this time it reached her eyes. Then let the game begin, she said, and pray that we are strong enough to win. The Valanthi Emperor agreed to observe Do-yun for 1 month. If the human proved himself worthy, the courtship would be allowed to continue. If he failed, he would be sent back to Earth in disgrace, and humanity's probation on the council would be extended by another 100 years. Prince Korath, Yura's older brother, designed the trials personally. He was tall like all Valanthi, but broader and more muscular. His silver skin had a darker tone, like storm clouds, and his violet eyes held nothing but hatred when he looked at Do-hyun. 3 trials, Korath announced at the opening ceremony. Hundreds of aliens had gathered to watch. Combat, strategy, diplomacy. These are the pillars of Valanthi society. If this human can prove himself in all 3, then perhaps he is not completely worthless. The way he said human made it sound like a curse word. The first trial was combat. Do-yun stood in a circular arena, wearing light armor that felt too heavy on his shoulders. Across from him stood a Valanthi warrior named Torek. Torek was massive, nearly 2 meters tall, with muscles that looked like they were carved from stone. He had been training for war since he was a child. Do-yun had been training for war since last week. Begin, the judge announced. Torek moved so fast that Do-hyun barely saw him. One moment the warrior was across the arena. The next moment, a fist slammed into Do-hyun's chest, sending him flying backward. He crashed into the arena wall and slid to the ground, gasping for air. The crowd cheered. They wanted to see the human crushed. Do-hyun pushed himself up. His ribs screamed with pain, but he stood anyway. He raised his fists and faced Torek again. Stubborn, Torek said. There was a hint of surprise in his voice. He attacked again. This time Do-hyun managed to dodge the first punch, but the second one caught him in the shoulder. He spun around and fell to his knees. Blood dripped from a cut on his forehead. The crowd was laughing now. Even some of the humans watching looked embarrassed. Do-hyun stood up again. Torek hit him 3 more times. Each hit was harder than the last. Each time Do-hyun fell, and each time he got back up. The laughter in the crowd faded. The arena grew quiet. After the 7th time Do-hyun rose to his feet, Torek stepped back. He looked at the human with an expression that was no longer contempt. It was something closer to respect. Why do you keep getting up? Torek asked. You cannot win. Because giving up is not who I am, Do-hyun said. His voice was weak, but his eyes were steady. Humans do not surrender. Torek attacked one final time. Do-hyun lasted exactly 40 seconds before a blow to his head knocked him unconscious. He woke up in the medical bay. Princess Yura was sitting beside his bed, watching him with an unreadable expression. You failed, she said. I know. His whole body hurt. Speaking hurt. You also got up 7 times after blows that should have ended the match. A small smile appeared on her face. Torek told the Emperor that he has never seen such stubbornness. He said that if all humans fight like you do, then humanity is not a species to dismiss lightly. The second trial was strategy. Do-hyun was given command of a simulated fleet in a war game. His opponent was Prince Korath himself. The prince had decades of military experience and access to the finest tactical minds in the Valanthi Empire. Do-hyun had nothing but his instincts and a book about military history he had read in college. The battle began. Korath's fleet moved with perfect precision, following strategies that had been refined over centuries. His ships surrounded Do-hyun's forces like a net closing around fish. Do-hyun did something unexpected. Instead of trying to escape the trap, he split his fleet into small groups and attacked in all directions at once. He sacrificed ships freely, trading them for damage to the enemy. He used tactics that looked crazy but made a strange kind of sense. He lost the battle, but when the final count was made, he had destroyed 60% of Korath's fleet in the process. Korath was furious. No one had ever damaged his forces so badly, not even experienced commanders. "These tactics are dishonorable," Korath complained to the judges. "He broke the rules of engagement." "Which rules did he break?" the head judge asked. Korath opened his mouth, then closed it. The human had not broken any specific rules. He had simply fought in ways that the Volanthi had never seen before. The emperor, watching from his throne, looked thoughtful. The third trial was diplomacy. Do-Yun had to negotiate a mock trade agreement with a panel of hostile council representatives. They were instructed to be as difficult as possible. They interrupted him, insulted him, and rejected every offer he made. Do-Hyun did not get angry. He did not give up. He listened to their concerns, found common ground where he could, and admitted honestly when he did not know something. He failed to secure favorable terms. The agreement he reached was barely acceptable. But during the negotiation, he made 3 of the representatives laugh. One Kreth actually slapped him on the back and called him not completely terrible for a human. The Volanthi judges were stunned. Volanthi diplomacy was serious and formal. Laughter was considered inappropriate, but the other species seemed to respond well to the humans' warmth and humor. At the end of the month, the emperor summoned Do-Hyun to the throne room. Princess Yira stood beside her father, her face carefully neutral. Prince Korath stood on the other side, barely hiding his anger. "You have completed the 3 trials," the emperor said. His voice echoed through the massive room. "You failed combat. You failed strategy. You failed diplomacy." Korath smiled with satisfaction. "And yet," the emperor continued, "you showed something in each trial that my son did not expect. In combat, you showed that humans do not surrender, even when victory is impossible. In strategy, you showed that humans think differently, creatively, unpredictably. In diplomacy, you showed that humans can connect with others through warmth and humor." The emperor leaned forward on his throne. "These are not qualities we value highly in Volanthi culture. But perhaps that is our mistake. Perhaps we have forgotten that the galaxy is vast, and there are many paths to strength." Korath's smile disappeared. "The trials will continue," the emperor announced, "but you have earned the right to stay. Human, you have earned the right to prove yourself further." Do-Yun bowed deeply. When he raised his head, he saw Yira watching him. Her neutral expression had cracked, just slightly. She was smiling, and despite everything, despite the pain and the fear and the impossible situation, Do-Yun smiled back. He had not won yet, but he had not lost either. And for now, that was enough. 2 weeks after the trials ended, the alarms began to scream. Do-Yun was in his quarters, studying reports about Volanthi culture, when the red light started flashing. The alarm sound was unlike anything he had heard before. It was not a fire alarm or a drill. It was a sound that made his bones feel cold. "Emergency alert. All personnel to secure stations." This is not a drill. He ran through the corridors, pushing past aliens who were running in every direction. Nobody knew what was happening. Nobody had answers. The fear in the air was thick enough to taste. Kim Narai found him near the observation deck. Her face was pale. "Something came out of deep space," she said. "A ship, unlike anything in our records." They reached the observation window and stopped. Do-Yun felt his heart freeze. The ship was enormous. It hung in space like a black mountain, blocking out the stars behind it. Its surface was completely dark, absorbing light instead of reflecting it. There were no windows, no markings, no signs of life. It was simply there, waiting, silent. "What is that thing?" Do-Hyun whispered. "Nobody knows," Nari said. "The council tried to contact it. No response. They sent a patrol to investigate. And?" Nari pointed to another window. In the distance, Do-Hyun could see debris floating in space. Pieces of metal, fragments of ships. The patrol had been destroyed, completely and instantly. The council called an emergency meeting. Every species sent their highest representatives. The chamber was packed with terrified aliens, all talking at once, demanding answers that no one had. Do-Hyun was there because Princess Yira had requested his presence. He stood beside her, trying to look calm even though his stomach was twisted with fear. The Emperor of the Valanthi rose to speak. The chamber fell silent. "What you have seen today is something we had hoped to keep secret," the Emperor said. His voice was heavy with exhaustion. "They are called the Hollow. They are an enemy from beyond the edge of known space." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Shock, disbelief, anger. "We have encountered them before," the Emperor continued. "At the borders of our territory. They do not negotiate. They do not communicate. They simply consume. Entire civilizations have fallen to them. Entire species have been erased from existence." A Kreth representative stood up. "Why were we not told of this threat?" "Because we believed we could handle it alone." The Emperor's voice held shame. "The Valanthi Empire has protected the galaxy for 10,000 years. We thought we could protect it again, without help." He paused. "We were wrong." The chamber erupted into chaos. Species accused each other of failures. Representatives shouted about betrayal and secrets. The fear was transforming into anger, and the anger was tearing the council apart. Do-Yun watched the argument grow worse and worse. He thought about what Yira had told him. The galaxy needed to unite. If they kept fighting each other, the Hollow would destroy them all. Before he could stop himself, he stood up. "If I may speak," he said. His voice was not loud, but something about a human daring to speak in the council chamber made everyone stop. They turned to look at him, some with curiosity, some with hatred, some with confusion. Prince Korath laughed. "The human wishes to speak? What could a probationary species possibly contribute?" Do-Hyun ignored him. He walked to the center of the chamber, feeling hundreds of eyes on his back. "On Earth we have a saying," he said. "If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together." The aliens stared at him. The words seemed strange to them, foreign. "You are all afraid," Do-Hyun continued. "I understand. I am afraid too. But fear makes us weak only when we face it alone. Right now, every species in this room is thinking about how to protect themselves, how to save their own people. That is natural. That is instinct." He took a deep breath. "But instinct is not always right. The Valanthi tried to face this threat alone, and they failed. Not because they are weak, but because no one is strong enough alone. Not the Valanthi, not the Kreth, not the Morvathi, not humans." He turned to face the entire chamber. "I propose something unprecedented. Full military integration between all council species, shared technology, shared tactics, shared command structures. The Valanthi reveal their secret preparations. The other species contribute their unique strengths. We fight together, as one force." "Impossible," a Morvathi representative said. "We cannot share our military secrets with species we do not trust." "Then we all die," Do-Hyun said simply. "Separately, alone. Our planet's burning while we congratulate ourselves on keeping our secrets safe." The chamber was silent. "Humans will coordinate," Do-Hyun continued. "We are new enough that nobody has old grudges against us. Well, almost nobody." He glanced at Korath. "We can serve as neutral ground, a bridge between species." "Why should we trust humans?" the Kreth representative asked, but his voice was thoughtful, not hostile. "You should not trust us," Do-Hyun admitted. "Not yet. We have not earned that trust, but you should give us a chance to earn it. The same chance you would want if your species were new and desperate to prove its worth." Princess Yira stood up. "I support this proposal. The human speaks wisdom that we need to hear." One by one, other representatives began to stand. The Kreth, the Morvathi, species Do-Hyun did not even know the names of. They stood in support of the proposal. The Emperor looked at his son. Korath's face was twisted with anger, but he did not speak against the motion. "The council will vote," the Emperor announced. The voting was close. Many species still did not trust each other. Many did not want to share their secrets. But fear is a powerful motivator, and the black ship waiting outside the station was a constant reminder of what they faced. The proposal passed by a single vote. That vote came from Princess Yira. As the chamber emptied, she found Do-Hyun standing alone by a window. The black ship was still visible in the distance, a shadow against the stars. "You did something remarkable today," she said. "I just said what needed to be said." Do-Hyun stared at the ship. Do you think it will work? Do you think we can actually unite them? Yira took his hand, her silver fingers intertwined with his. I do not know, she admitted, but for the first time since we discovered the hollow, I have hope. They stood together, watching the darkness. War was coming. The enemy was waiting, but at least now they would not face it alone. The hollow attacked 3 days later. They did not send warnings. They did not make demands. One moment the black ship was floating silently at the edge of the system. The next moment it began moving toward the station, and smaller ships poured from its surface like insects from a hive. Thousands of them, each one dark and silent and deadly. The unified fleet scrambled to respond. Valanthi warships powered up their ancient weapons. Kreth cruisers moved into attack formation. Morvathi support vessels prepared their shields and repair systems, and 2 human destroyers, transferred from Earth just days ago, took their positions alongside the alien ships. It was the largest combined fleet in galactic history. Ships from 20 different species, fighting under one command. Doyun stood on the bridge of the command ship, a massive Valanthi dreadnought called the Silver Dawn. Princess Yira was beside him, coordinating with the royal commanders. Prince Korath stood at the tactical station, his earlier hatred pushed aside by the need for survival. Kim Nari was on the communication deck below, working with a team of specialists from a dozen species. Her job was to keep the fleet connected, to make sure every ship could hear every order instantly. Enemy ships entering weapons range, a Valanthi officer announced. They will reach the station in 12 minutes. All ships prepare to engage, Korath ordered. His voice was calm and professional. Whatever his feelings about humans, he knew how to command. The first wave of hollow ships crashed into the fleet like a black tide. The battle was chaos. Energy weapons fired in all directions, painting the darkness with colors of destruction. The hollow ships moved without pattern, without formation, each one attacking independently. They absorbed energy blasts like sponges and seemed to regenerate from physical damage almost instantly. A Kreth cruiser exploded on the left side of the screen, then a Morvathi support vessel, then 2 more ships that Dohyun did not recognize. We are losing, Korath said. His voice was tight with frustration. Our weapons are not effective enough. Dohyun watched the battle display, his mind racing. Something was wrong with how the Hollow fought. They were powerful, yes, but they were also predictable. Each ship attacked the nearest target. When threatened, they retreated in straight lines. They never worked together, never coordinated. They are a hive mind, Dohyun said suddenly. You said they share one consciousness. Yes, Yura confirmed. They do not need coordination because every unit knows what every other unit knows. But that is also their weakness. Dohyun pointed at the display. Look at how they react. They process threats one at a time. When we attack from multiple directions, they get confused. They cannot handle unexpected changes. Korath looked at the display, then at Dohyun. What are you suggesting? On Earth, we used to have a tactic called wolfpack hunting. Small groups hitting different targets at the same time, never giving the enemy a chance to focus, to react, to adapt. Dohyun outlined his plan quickly. We split the fleet into 8 attack groups. Each group hits a different section of the enemy simultaneously. Constant pressure from all sides. That would spread our forces thin, Korath objected. If they concentrate on any single group, then the other 7 groups hit them from behind. Dohyun met the prince's eyes. It is risky, but what we are doing now is not working. We need to try something different. Korath hesitated. The battle raged on outside, more ships dying every second. Do it, the prince finally said. Nari worked frantically to reorganize the fleet's communications. Human specialists had to translate orders between species who had never fought together before. The language barriers alone should have made the plan impossible. But somehow it worked. Within minutes, the unified fleet had reformed into 8 separate attack groups, each one containing ships from multiple species. All groups begin coordinated assault, Korath commanded. Attack pattern human alpha. The 8 groups struck simultaneously. The effect on the Hollow was immediate. Their ships, which had been moving with confidence, suddenly became erratic. They tried to respond to threats from all directions at once and failed. Their attacks became unfocused, their movements chaotic. It is working, Yura breathed. They cannot adapt fast enough. The unified fleet pressed the advantage. Each attack group hit hard, then retreated before the Hollow could concentrate forces against them. Other groups attacked from different angles, keeping the enemy constantly off balance. Hollow ships began to fall, not many at first, but then more and more. The dark vessels that had seemed invincible were now struggling to survive. But the Hollow command ship still advanced toward the station. It was massive, larger than all the other Hollow ships combined. If it reached the station, millions of lives would be lost. "We need to stop that ship," Korath said. "Nothing we have can damage it." One of the human destroyers broke formation, the ESS Defiance, commanded by Captain Lee Sun-hee. Her voice crackled over the communication system. "I am taking my ship on a direct attack run at the command vessel. All other ships, focus on the smaller targets." "Captain Lee, that is suicide," Nari responded. "Your weapons cannot penetrate that ship's hull." "I know," Captain Lee's voice was steady. "I am not planning to use my weapons." Do-yun understood immediately. She is going to ram them. The Defiance accelerated toward the Hollow command ship. Enemy vessels tried to intercept, but the other attack groups kept them busy. The small human destroyer flew through the battlefield like a dart, avoiding obstacles by the narrowest margins. "All hands, abandon ship," Captain Lee ordered her crew. Escape pods launched from the Defiance as it continued its course, now piloted only by a skeleton crew of volunteers. The Defiance hit the Hollow command ship at full speed. The explosion was blinding. The human destroyer's reactor, pushed beyond all safety limits, released enough energy to crack open the massive enemy vessel. Fire bloomed in the darkness of space. The Hollow command ship broke apart, pieces of it spinning away into the void. The remaining Hollow ships stopped attacking. They froze in place for a moment, as if confused. Then, without any apparent signal, they turned and fled into deep space. The battle was over. The bridge of the Silver Dawn was silent. Valanthi officers stared at the display in disbelief. Kreth warriors lowered their weapons. Even Korath looked stunned. "They retreated," Yira whispered. "We won." The communication system erupted with voices. Ships from every species were cheering, celebrating, calling out to each other in languages that mixed together into a song of victory. Do-yun did not cheer. He was looking at the spot where the Defiance had been. 60 crew members had stayed aboard that ship. 60 humans who had given their lives so that millions could survive. Yira noticed his silence. She took his hand. "They were heroes," she said softly. "They will be remembered." "They were people," Do-yun replied. His voice was thick. "They had families, friends, dreams. And now they are gone." "Yes," Yira squeezed his hand. "That is the cost of war. That is why we fight to prevent it, and why we honor those who pay the price." Korath approached them. His expression was strange, unreadable. "Your tactics worked, human," he said. "Your people sacrificed themselves to save the station." He paused, seeming to struggle with the next words. "I was wrong about your species." Do-yun nodded. He did not feel triumphant. He felt tired and sad and grateful all at once. "We are all wrong sometime," he said. "What matters is what we do next." Outside the window, the debris of battle drifted among the stars. Somewhere out there, the Hollow were regrouping, planning their next attack. But for today, the galaxy had survived. The unified fleet had held, and humanity had proven once and for all that it belonged among the stars. 1 week after the Battle of Unity Station, Park Do-yun received a summons to the Valanthi throne room. He walked through the palace corridors alone this time, without guards escorting him. The servants and officials he passed no longer looked at him with suspicion or contempt. Some nodded respectfully. A few even bowed. The throne room was vast, with ceilings that seemed to reach toward the stars. Golden light streamed through crystal windows, and ancient tapestries hung on the walls, telling stories of Valanthi history that stretched back thousands of years. The emperor sat on his throne, tall and regal in robes of deepest purple. Princess Yira stood beside him, her silver skin glowing softly in the golden light, and next to her, for the first time without anger on his face, stood Prince Korath. Do-yun walked to the center of the room and bowed deeply. "Rise, human," the emperor said. His voice echoed through the chamber. Do-yun stood. He felt the weight of this moment pressing on his shoulders, but he kept his spine straight and his eyes steady. You have proven yourself, the Emperor continued, not through strength, for there are many species stronger than humans, not through technology, for many species are more advanced, not even through strategy, though your tactics saved thousands of lives in battle. The Emperor leaned forward on his throne. You have proven yourself through something we Valanthi had forgotten the value of, the ability to unite others, to bring together enemies and make them allies, to see a fleet of rival species and imagine not competition, but cooperation. Doyun thought about the battle, about the ships from 20 different species fighting as one, about Captain Lee and her crew sacrificing everything, about Nari and the communications specialists who had made the impossible possible. I did not do it alone, he said. Humans rarely do anything alone. That is precisely the point, the Emperor replied. Your species understands something that older, prouder civilizations have forgotten. No one survives alone. No one achieves greatness alone. We need each other. He gestured to Yura. The princess stepped forward, her violet eyes fixed on Dohyun. My daughter's courtship claim is validated, the Emperor announced. By ancient law and by demonstrated worth, you are considered acceptable. Should you choose to accept, you would become the first non-Valanthi in history to join our royal house. Dohyun's heart was beating fast. He looked at Yura. She raised an eyebrow. That same playful expression she had shown him in her private chambers, back when all of this had seemed impossible. I have conditions, Dohyun said. The guards around the room shifted nervously. Korath's eyes narrowed. One did not make conditions with the Valanthi Emperor, but the Emperor simply waited, curious. Humanity gets full council membership, Dohyun said. Not probationary, full membership, with voting rights that begin immediately. There was silence in the throne room. Even Yira looked surprised. You negotiate for your species even now, the Emperor said slowly. Even in this moment, when you could be thinking only of yourself. Humans do not think only of ourselves. That is our greatest weakness and our greatest strength. The Emperor was quiet for a long moment. Then incredibly, he laughed. The sound was deep and ancient, like stones grinding together in a mountain. My daughter chose well, he said. Very well, human. Humanity will be granted full council membership. The vote will take place tomorrow, and I will personally ensure it passes. Dohyun bowed again. Thank you, Your Majesty. Now, the Emperor said, will you accept my daughter's claim? Will you stand beside her as consort and partner? Will you help guide our empire into this new age of cooperation? Dohyun turned to face Yira. She stood before him, beautiful and powerful and hopeful. The princess who had grabbed his wrist in a cafeteria and changed his life forever. Do you want this? He asked her quietly. Not for politics, not for the alliance. Do you actually want me? Yira smiled. It was a real smile, warm and genuine. I chose you because you were interesting, she said. I kept you because you were brave. And somewhere along the way, without planning to, I began to care for you. Not as a symbol, not as a political tool, as a person. She took his hand in hers. Yes, Park Dohyun, I want this. I want you. Dohyun looked at their hands together, silver and brown, alien and human, different in every way that should have mattered, and yet somehow perfectly matched. Then I accept, he said. The throne room erupted in formal applause. Servants and officials cheered according to ancient protocol. Korath even nodded, his expression no longer hostile but thoughtful, like he was seeing Dohyun for the first time. Later that evening, Dohyun and Yura stood alone on a balcony overlooking the stars. The station floated in the darkness, lights twinkling from 1,000 windows. Somewhere out there, ships from every species were working together to repair the damage from the battle and prepare for whatever came next. Everything is going to change now, Yura said. It already has. Dohyun leaned against the railing. A few months ago, I was just a student looking for a place to sit in a cafeteria. Now I am engaged to a princess, and humanity has a seat at the galactic table. Do you regret it? He thought about the question seriously. He thought about the fear and the pain and the impossible challenges. He thought about the people who had died in the battle. He thought about the weight of responsibility that now rested on his shoulders. No, he said finally, I do not regret it. I am terrified and I am exhausted, and I have no idea what I am doing. But I do not regret it. Yura moved closer to him, her silver arm wrapped around his waist. The Hollow will return, she said. The war is not over. There will be more battles, more sacrifices, more impossible choices. I know, but we will face them together. Humans and Valanthi and all the other species of the galaxy. Together. Doyun nodded. He looked out at the stars, thinking about how small they had seemed from Earth and how vast they seem now. You know what I keep thinking about? He said. That day in the cafeteria. If I had found that empty seat I was looking for, if I had sat down before you grabbed my wrist, none of this would have happened. Yura laughed softly. Would you have preferred that? A quiet lunch instead of all this chaos? Definitely not. He turned to look at her. The chaos led me to you. The chaos led humanity to the stars. Sometimes the best things in life come from moments when everything goes wrong. She leaned her head against his shoulder. I knew you would change everything, she said. From the moment I saw you searching for a place to sit, I knew. How could you possibly have known that? Because you were different. You did not look afraid, even though you were surrounded by species who wanted you gone. You did not look angry, even though you had every reason to be. You looked determined, hopeful, alive. She turned to face him, her violet eyes shining. You look like someone who could change the galaxy. Doyun took her hands in his. I could not have done any of it without you, he said. You took a chance on humanity, on me. Everything that comes next, we build together. They stood there on the balcony watching the stars burn in the endless night. Behind them, the galaxy was changing. Old enemies were becoming new allies. Ancient walls were falling. A future that had seemed impossible was becoming real. And at the center of it all stood a human and a princess, holding hands ready to face whatever came next. Together.